Now at 5, a Joplin mother speaks out after a man allegedly tried to kidnap her child at last week's Third Thursday event. Plus, KOAM hosts an event letting people swap out their old American flags for new ones. And
House Republicans slammed the Biden administration's handling on immigration, even as a bipartisan group of House lawmakers seeks to compromise. I'm Cristian Benavides with the details.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
the mother of the child who police say was almost kidnapped at last week's Third Thursday in Joplin speaks out. This is KOAM News at 5. I'm Dow Quick. Police say Johnny Earhart tried to take a child near the bounce houses during Third Thursday. They say he tried taking the child behind a building despite the child crying out for her mother. Shortly afterward, Earhart let go of the child and bystanders were able to detain him until law enforcement arrived. Kaylee McGehee, the mother of the child, recounts the moment she saw Earhart running away with her child.
I yelled, "Hey, that's my daughter," and then I yelled at my husband, "Hey, he's trying to take our daughter." There were a lot of bystanders, even other vendors, that jumped out of their trucks and they ran with me towards him. And as soon as he saw us running towards him, he put her down, thankfully.
We're going to hear more from that mother and from Joplin Police tonight at 6. Cherokee County, Kansas residents will have to find a new place to take care of driver's license issues. The county treasurer's office announced it's going to permanently close the driver's license station on June 9th. Officials say the reason behind the closure is that they've had trouble keeping employees to operate that system. Dozens of people today swapped out their old, worn-down American flags for new, bright versions of Old Glory. KOAM hosted the flag swap at Jake's Fireworks in Pittsburgh. 200 people traded in old flags. 125 took home new ones. The American Legion is assisting us in properly retiring those traded-in flags.
The people have the opportunity to replace their older, tattered United States flags in the proper way. And for that, we're glad that we're working with KOAM to help replace those flags. So.
This was only the first flag swap we're hosting. You can find information about others at KOAMnewsnow.com/flag. Chief Meteorologist Doug Heddy has his first look at the weather.
Well, it's definitely turned out to be a nice Tuesday for us today. We've had those cumulus clouds popping up once again during the afternoon. We've been tracking some showers and thunderstorms out across northern parts of Oklahoma, but that's pretty much where they are sticking, and that's what we're going to see as we go through the evening hours. Look at our temperatures as we fall back through the evening, mid-60s. This is going to be 11 p.m. I do want to show you back to the east, a few isolated thunderstorms over towards Springfield. So we can't rule out one or two isolated little thunderstorms get in here late tonight, but overall, I think it's going to be pretty quiet. 11 p.m., 65, 64 by 7 a.m. We are going to get some scattered thunderstorms, hit and miss for us tomorrow. So, of course, we're going to break that all down for you here in just a little bit.
See you soon. A driver is facing multiple charges after slamming a U-Haul truck into a security barrier near the White House late last night. Happened at Lafayette Square, which is about a block from the White House fence. No one was hurt and there were no explosives in the vehicle, but a Nazi flag was recovered at the scene. A U.S. law enforcement official says the suspect made threatening statements directed at the vice president and at the president. U.S. officials say the number of migrants approaching the southern border has significantly dropped following the end of the pandemic-era policy that allowed the government to quickly expel migrants. But migrants continue to arrive at high levels, and today House Republicans held a hearing slamming border policies under the Biden administration. Cristian Benavides reports.
Mother Tammy Nobles told a Republican-led House panel Tuesday how her 20-year-old daughter was killed.
I don't want any other parent to live the nightmare that I am living.
Last summer, police say Kayla Hamilton was murdered by an MS-13 gang member. Noble says he had been apprehended at the southern border, then was released into the U.S. as an unaccompanied minor.
The United States government has to secure our border. We need to properly vet all border crossers.
The Biden administration says it is working to do that, stepping up resources to process migrants seeking asylum and increasing deportations.
The vast majority of asylum seekers are coming here because they are fleeing persecution. Many people who come here are not in need of protection, but that's why we need a system that makes that distinction.
A new Biden administration program that allows people to sponsor asylum seekers has already received an overwhelming 1.5 million applications. The Department of Homeland Security says it can only accept 30,000 a month. Tuesday, a group of House lawmakers rolled out a new bipartisan immigration reform bill. They're calling it the Dignity Act.
Waiting for either side's idea of what is perfect is exactly what's gotten us into the situation we face today.
The legislation would provide a pathway to citizenship for some undocumented people, provide billions in border security financed by immigrants, and expedite the asylum claims process. Cristian Benavides, CBS News, Miami.
Still ahead, coming down to the wire.
Negotiations continue on a possible deal to raise the nation's debt ceiling. I'm Nicole Skenga on Capitol Hill ahead of Congress's looming deadline.
And next in Health Watch, why the CDC is warning Americans about a possible summer resurgence of Mpox. Topping today's Health Watch, new HIV infections are trending down in the United States. A CDC report shows there were about 32,000 new HIV infections in 2021. That's a 12% drop from 2017. Among gay and bisexual men ages 13 to 24, annual infections were down 34% during those years. Currently, the CDC estimates that about 1.2 million people in the U.S. have HIV, and about 1 in 8 don't even know they have it. The CDC is warning Americans about a possible resurgence this summer of Mpox, formerly known as monkeypox. It comes as a cluster of new cases has been discovered even among vaccinated people. More than 30,000 people in the U.S. have contracted the disease since last summer's outbreak. The overwhelming majority are men who have sex with men. Reporter Roxana Saberi shows us why there's new concern.
We don't really know if people are developing breakthrough cases because immunity is waning.
Dr. Karen Kruger says some patients recently treated at Chicago's Northwestern Memorial Hospital had also received both doses of the Jynneos vaccine.
But at least we haven't seen any of those cases that are on the real, very severe end of the spectrum where hospitalization is required.
Because most of those people had double vaccinations?
That is my hope.
With Pride celebrations starting next month, the CDC is now warning of an Mpox resurgence and is calling on men who have sex with men and other people at high risk to get vaccinated. The agency estimates that only around a quarter of them have been fully vaccinated. 3 studies released last week found that the 2-dose vaccine is 66 to 88% effective at preventing an Mpox infection. With 1 dose, that figure drops to 36 to 75%. Mpox is spread primarily by skin-to-skin contact. Common symptoms are rashes, scabs, and flu-like symptoms. It's rarely fatal. Michael Kelly, co-owner of Equal Pride magazine, was diagnosed with Mpox last summer.
So loneliness was actually a symptom. Mental health isolation is a huge symptom.
But he says his symptoms could have been a lot worse if he hadn't received his first vaccine dose 8 days earlier.
I'm concerned about people who don't take this seriously and don't get vaccinated to protect themselves and, as importantly, others.
Roxana Saberi, CBS News, New York.
According to the World Health Organization, symptoms of Mpox typically last 2 to 4 weeks, but may last longer in someone with a weakened immune system. Teenage girls were the most vulnerable to increased mental health diagnoses during the pandemic. That's according to a study in JAMA Network. It found the most pronounced effect in that group was an uptick in eating disorders, more than double than before the pandemic. Heart failure diagnosis is missed more often than it's made, especially in women. That's according to research out of the University of Glasgow, which examined around 1 million health records from adults in Scotland. The findings suggest the majority of patients with heart failure die without ever having been diagnosed. Catching signs and symptoms earlier could lead to more effective treatment. And greasing the palms? Well, not if you're prone to guilt. Chinese researchers found people inclined to feel guilt were less likely to take a bribe, especially if it would cause obvious harm to others. And that is a look at today's health news. Doug Hetty's next with a complete look at the forecast. And a little bit later, the Department of Transportation unveils its new strategy to better handle the summer travel rush.
Well, it definitely turned out to be a nice Tuesday for us again today. Partly sunny skies, temperatures a little bit warmer, but also the allergies a little bit higher on a scale of 1 to 12. Today is a 9.3 out of 12. Tomorrow a little bit better just because we're going to get a few scattered thunderstorms and that helps wash the atmosphere out just a little bit. Now the main allergies that are affecting people right now is the grasses, the hickory, and the mulberry. So if you are an allergy sufferer, of course, these are going to stay kind of high as we go through the next few days. All right, great evening. We'll drop back to 65 by 11, 64 at 7 a.m. I think our overnight low right around 60. We may get a few scattered showers, a few scattered thunderstorms in here late morning on Wednesday, but we rebound right back to 74 degrees. But it's pretty quiet out there for us this evening. We do have those cumulus clouds that have been popping up. We can't rule out a random shower as we go through the night, but you can see all the bigger thunderstorms really from Wichita to Oklahoma City, and these are really going to hold fairly steady, meaning in this location most of the evening into the overnight hours for us tonight. But we do have a little bit of moisture eastern parts of Missouri, so we may get one or two stragglers that try to get in here a little bit later on tonight. But if we look at the picture as a whole, you can see this weak little twist in the upper level flow, and that's our upper level wave that is producing a few showers and thunderstorms, which will also give us a few showers and thunderstorms over the next few days. Also, we got this little wave down across southeastern parts of the U.S., which usually only happens in the late spring, summer. It actually moves west, but also at the same time, it kind of blocks our pattern up a little bit. So it keeps any big storm systems kind of shooting up across the northern plains. But you can see we get some moisture in here. But for the rest of the week, into the holiday weekend, we're going to be focused on this little upper level low that tries to get a little bit closer to us and giving us a little bit of moisture. But again, the good news here is we don't have any big severe weather threats, which is always great news in the month of May. All right, let's go through the night. I'm going to stop at 7 a.m. Lower 60s, partly cloudy. We still have these thunderstorms south of Wichita, just to the west of Tulsa. As we go through the morning, let's stop at noon. A few isolated little showers trying to pop up, and then a few isolated thunderstorms during the afternoon, especially on the Kansas and the Oklahoma side. Now, any thunderstorms that do fire will have the potential to produce some small hail, and maybe we can't rule out a low-grade severe thunderstorm, but these are mainly just going to be good old thunderstorms. As we go through the night, tomorrow night, lose the heating of the day, so we lose the storms. Here's 6 a.m. on Thursday, and then Thursday afternoon, very similar, scattered thunderstorms start to pop up once again as we head into the afternoon. All right, here's your day planner for you Wednesday, 64 to start, scattered late morning, afternoon thunderstorms, but high temperatures right around 80 degrees, which is pretty good. 82 on Thursday, still some scattered thunderstorms. Very slight chance on Friday. Let's go into your holiday weekend. Pretty nice, 76 Saturday, 79 on Sunday. Memorial Day itself back into the 80s, and we could get some pop-up thunderstorms back in the forecast for us next week. But all in all, a pretty good forecast, and at least over the holiday weekend, mainly dry.
Doug, thanks. Coming up, we're going to look at where negotiations stand on a deal to extend the nation's debt limit. Topping today's Consumer Watch, the summer travel season unofficially starts this holiday weekend. AAA is predicting nearly 3.5 million Americans will take to the skies, which is why federal officials are working to make sure last year's wave of flight cancellations and delays don't happen again. With huge crowds expected at U.S. airports, the Department of Transportation has developed a twofold approach toward the airlines, working with them while also applying pressure if needed.
We're working collaboratively with the airlines wherever we can to take steps that are going to help them reduce congestion and increase capacity. And then when things go wrong, we're using our tools to press airlines to continue improving customer service and to continue improving performance.
The FAA projects there'll be more than 51,000 flights on Thursday alone. Secretary Buttigieg admits it'll be, quote, a quote, test of the system. Talks between the White House negotiating team and House Republicans continue as the two sides try to find a deal that would raise the nation's debt limit in order to avoid a default. Reporter Nicole Skenga has more details now from Capitol Hill.
We're just going to work. That's all. We don't have anything else.
White House negotiators arrived on Capitol Hill to resume debt limit talks, but the two sides still appear far apart.
We're concerned that Republicans are not only moving the goalposts, but continue to hold out to the most extreme elements of their proposals.
We're still far apart until this administration is willing to recognize that they are having record spending, record deficits, and record taxes. Then we're not going to be able to come together.
The White House is offering to keep government spending at current levels for the next 2 years.
Let me be very clear. We are not putting anything on the floor that doesn't spend less than we spent this year.
Republicans want to cut spending even more and keep those lower levels for at least the next 6 years. The only exception, defense spending, which they want to increase.
Based on what Republicans have shown us with their appropriations bills, we are looking at a 30% cut across the board to the remaining domestic programs.
If a deal is reached, the House must have the bill a full 72 hours before a vote. That provision a condition of Kevin McCarthy's election as House Speaker. It means lawmakers need an agreement soon in order to pass it through the House and the Senate by the June 1st deadline.
If by the end of this week we don't see any movement in Washington and the rhetoric is dark, then we'll start to see a lot of selling in the stock market.
We're going to work until we get it all done.
McCarthy says negotiations will continue even over the holiday weekend if necessary. Nicole Skenga, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Economists warn that defaulting could result in lowered credit ratings for America, which means everyone's going to be paying higher interest rates, potentially forever. The Federal Reserve has released its annual economic well-being of U.S. household report, and the results show the toll inflation has inflicted on Americans. 73% of respondents say they're doing financially okay. That's down 5 points from 2021, though, while 35% of Americans said they're worse off, the highest level since 2014. There was a slight increase in the number of respondents who said their salaries went up in the last year. But only 63% of Americans say they have enough money to cover a $400 emergency expense. That's down from 68% in 2021. The cash-sharing app Venmo is now officially allowing 13 to 17-year-olds to open an account with their parents' permission. It also comes with a debit card. Before they changed the policy, a lot of parents had to set up accounts for their children through their own accounts, which technically was a violation of Venmo's rules. A final check of the forecast next. Up next on the CBS Evening News, more on the driver charged with crashing a U-Haul into a White House barricade. Then on KOAM News at 6, we're going to have more from that mother of a child who was allegedly nearly abducted at last week's Joplin Third Thursday event. Plus, how the Kansas Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program is increasing its benefits. And the Mount Vernon Mountaineers look to claim the Class II State Softball Championship. We're going to have the highlights. Stay with us for the CBS Evening News and then KOAM News at 6. Let's check back in with Doug.
All right, most of the evening hours look pretty good for us tonight. We'll dip back right around 60 later on tonight. 80 on Wednesday. We are going to have scattered afternoon thunderstorms. Some of these could be a little bit stronger, much of the same on Thursday and even a few pop-up ones on Friday. However, majority of the holiday weekend overall looking pretty good. A little bit cooler Saturday and Sunday. 80s return next week.
Thanks, Doug, and thank you for joining us. The CBS Evening News is next, and of course, we're going to be right back here for KOAM News at 6. See you then. Let's make it a great evening.